Hi everybody, we're gonna start painting. And before we do, there's, preliminaries, I guess they're called. And the reason these are important is because when you start painting, you'll have more fun if you have kind of a map. Even if you're painting really loose, crazy stuff, like abstracts and all that, if you formulate your palette and your canvas, depending on what kind of method you're going to use, I'm going to use Alla Prima. And Alla Prima is wonderful for beginners because you can't make any mistakes. And if you're really, really interested in painting and you have a lot of reservations and you're kind of intimidated by what's going on up there about paint, because there are some logistics to it. And it does seem daunting and intimidating. But I've discovered over the years so many different techniques and tools and applications that cut through a lot of the complications so that anybody can do it and kind of have it make it look pretty decent from the gate. There's just certain processes. One of them is the palette. Now, if you notice, I have 4 different colors. I have yellow going to brown, I have orange going to deep red, and I have a light green going to dark green, and I have light blue going to dark blue, and then I have a strip of black down there. Now, it doesn't matter what they call them. This is Naples, that's Naples, this is ochre and sienna and all that. Get your tones from dark to light and from light to dark. That way you'll have a binary system which will include your values. In the old days, in 35 millimeter photography, they had stops. And so you would stop at different light exposures. These are just stops, and there's space in between them for a reason. And that's going to go into a little bit of application. But not only can you see them a little better, but you can see how they relate to each other a little better. I used to work with haphazard palettes. Every day it would be different. I didn't care. Because I was playing on my canvases. But when I went into art restoration and I started playing on other people's canvases, well, I had to learn how to color match, and I had to be pretty accurate, and I didn't want to play on other people's canvases because I didn't make much money doing that. It was tough making money in restoration because it was so time consuming. That's why I lay out my colors like this so I can kind of see what's going on instantly. So line up your colors dark to light so you can just get your values. And that's your binary system, your values and your colors in one glance. Now, the other interesting part, and this is really, really fun, is how you prepare your canvas. This is alla prima, meaning one setting, one time. And that's what's really cool about it because it's so impulsive and it's so fast, and that's why it's fun. You don't kind of get mugged down into minutia and neurosis. And you paint this, and depending on your dryers and your accelerators, you have mediums. So you have white. I'm going to put white all over this canvas to make it slick. What do I make it slick with? There are 2 elements. Here's another binary. Drying and preserving the viscosity of the paint. That's another one. Viscosity, how thin and how thick. And once you get the color and the values, and then you get the viscosities and your drying times, the neat thing about mineral oil. You go buy this stuff if you're plugged up, but you can use it with oil painting too. It's non-toxic. And if you use a lot of this stuff without a dryer, you can paint on this canvas for days. And it seems like Alla Prima because it's still wet. This stuff will never dry. As a matter of fact, I've wrecked a lot of paintings because I didn't use this. Now this is liquid. Now these two combined will give you your yin and your yang about drying and preserving. It's not complicated. Liquid and mineral oil. And the more liquid you use, the faster it's going to dry. And the more mineral oil you use, the longer it will take to dry. But those are the only two elements I use. The liquid is a little toxic. It smells like airplane glue. It reminds me of when I was a kid and I got dizzy. So you got to watch that stuff. The mineral oil, well, like I say, if you're plugged up, you could drink it. So you have buckets of it. And you can preserve and clean your instruments. That's another thing. But that's why it's so much fun. You can play for a while with this technique that I've developed. You can. This is art play. It's not artwork. And part of that play is how you prepare your palette and your canvas. And then you can have a whole lot of fun. Now, some of the implements that I'm going to be using are mostly just big palette knives like this, just to get the stuff on the canvas. We're going to do that in the next segment. But all you need are large palette knives. And I've developed some instruments that we're going to paint with. This is going to be so much fun because we're just going to block stuff in and we're going to start etching just like you're drawing a picture, just like you're drawing a sketch. We're going to paint. We're going to draw like we're painting and we're going to paint like we're drawing. It's going to be really cool. But we need a little bit of prep. There's also some preparation on loading these instruments too that I'm going to go into the next segment. How we're going to load, how we're going to prepare our white base. Now also we can go into a little bit of your exposure as far as how you want to start. Remember I talked about 35mm photography and stops, and that's why you have stops in your colors. You meter down, you meter up. You meter down, you meter up. Your darks and your lights with color. And when you're doing it on your canvas, you can see exactly what you're doing and where you're going. And it makes it a lot more fun. And what's really fun about it, when I extend my drying times, I can play with this thing and have that spontaneity all day. I'll tell you, once these things dry, it's tough. That's why they call it Alla Prima. You get one shot, but that shot can be really, really exciting. Plus, I can show you how to give you a long shot, because in this extension of your time with the mineral oil, this is magic stuff. I also use it in my brushwork because it preserves brushes. So if you don't want to clean your brush at the end of the day, just squeegee it and stick it in some mineral oil, squeegee the mineral oil out, and leave some on there, and that brush will be supple for weeks. Like I say, I've ruined quite a few paintings, as an alchemist trying to figure this out. But what I figured is we're going to have a whole lot of fun. And anybody can do this. And if you're intimidated, I'll show you how. You don't have to be intimidated. There's a bridge between you and expressing you through painting and with these instruments, you're going to feel a lot more comfortable. If you've never held the brush before, well, maybe you don't want to. And maybe you're just a really good sketcher and you work with colored pencils or pastels and you want to get into paint, but you know, the mess and all that, that's the other thing about this. There's no mess with this. There's very, very little mess. That's one of the reasons that I'm so excited about it also. There's not a lot of maintenance because there's these consistencies that I'll show you how to get to in the paint. And so you can use implements that clean up in a second. And it's non-toxic, except for that liquid stuff, you know. Use in a properly ventilated area. Particle wave equals MC squared off on the paint.